This way. All right. Oh, yay, we're live. Okay, awesome. Hello, everybody in my Facebook group. So this is the first time I have done a joint live stream here. So we're just testing out this StreamYard technology here. But Maria, you use this all the time because you do your Friday night, live streams with amazing people. So hello, everybody. Welcome to this talk here. This is my very dear friend, and you're also a coach and a mentor to women as well, Maria Diaz. So Maria, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and how you support women, and then we're going to dive into the juicy topic about how women with big hearts, because you have a massive big heart, I have a massive big heart, and that big heart, that unconditional love, that ability to be able to see somebody's soul and see the goodness in them has really messed us up and got us involved with some not so great people. So we're going to dive into that and how we work through that, and tips and advice that we have for anybody watching. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Thank you, Krisha. First, I want to say thank you for having me here in your space, in your extraordinary group, with the people in your group. It is such an honor to be here with you. I love you. You're an extraordinary friend, an amazing coach, and I just love working with you and bouncing ideas with you and being in sisterhood and in friendship with you. It's very nourishing. I love you.
I love you.
So a little bit about myself. I am the founder of Stand Coaching, and I guide women to ground into their leadership, their personal power, and their self-expression. And why that is so valuable and important to me is because I was in a toxic relationship for 20 years, one in which I didn't love myself, I didn't value myself, and I didn't even know what I wanted. I didn't know myself. And once I exited that relationship, because I had a wake-up call. I got breast cancer in 2014, and that woke me up to ask questions and to examine my life. And through that examining, I was able to release that relationship. And then I began a journey to learn to love myself, to get to know myself, and to live aligned to my core values. And that's why we're here today. Like, that's my big why. I want all women to live an orgasmic life, a powerful life from the inside out, where they wake up and it doesn't matter what shows up in life, because there's challenges everywhere, there's situations everywhere, but that they have the power to respond to life, instead of being at the effect of life. So in the end, we end up creating and designing our lives the way that we want to live them. And for me, that is really important.
I love that so much. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who talk the talk and then don't walk the walk, but you just beautifully walk the walk, and like I fell in love with you the first day I saw you, when we met that one day. And you weren't actively coaching at that time, but you had this essence and this energy and this ability to be able to like really see the truth in people and really see that love that they had and the potential for love that they had. And so watching and witnessing your journey into doing this work for other women through like the deep coaching that you did yourself with who's the company that you've been coaching with?
So I've done a lot of work with
Landmark, that's it. Yeah. And just watching you like go deep into your own stuff, and heal a lot of these patterns that you were talking about, and the things that you like went through. And instead of like living life, in blame or victim or being like, oh, poor me, you literally were like, I have an opportunity here to create something new for myself and to create something new, because you've got one daughter and one they. Is that correct? Is that
Yes.
what we're saying now? Okay. It's a little clunky.
Non-binary child.
Non-binary, right? Yeah, yeah. And to be that loving example for them, and to take this work out into the world, because the world really, really needs it. So I honor you. I love you so much. I love the work that you do. I love hanging out with you because you just have this beautiful ability to be able to have such deep, passionate, loving conversations with people, and you're always yourself, no matter where we are. It's wonderful. I love you.
I would say that that's one of the most empowering things about all of this work is that I now have the freedom to be completely me. So it's like this weight was just lifted, and it's just
Yeah.
lightness and peacefulness
Yeah.
and magic.
Yeah. Yeah, girl. I love it. Cool. So today we're going to dive into how women with massive hearts get trapped into relationships with narcissists or emotionally unavailable men, and the patterns that come up, like the reasons for that, right? I'm just getting some notes here. So it's like we were talking before about, the savior and needing to fix, like the women with big hearts. That's generally the pattern that we get into. I did an earlier live stream before this one here today, talking about the what we know about love is wrong. They're all lies, what we've been told, right? And we've talked about this on our clubhouses and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
but in that live stream, I talked about the victim, perpetrator, savior loop and the drama triangle, and how common this is for women with these big open hearts. Usually what happens is we are raised in environments that are unhealthy, and then it brings us to relationships that are unhealthy because we don't know any different, right? So we're perpetuating the cycle of abuse or whatnot. And like for me, my savior complex, or my saving, started with my mom, right? Because she was like an alcoholic and she needed saving, and I was like this grown up, but I was a child, and so there was just this constant like, let me fix you, mom. And that energy, I didn't know, like that was how I was raised, so I didn't know any different. And then I brought that immediately to my relationships, and so every partner thereafter was somebody who I was trying to fix or trying to save. And then when we talked about looking outside for validation, right? And how we're conditioned, which I know you can speak to this one, how we're conditioned as women to sacrifice, settle, and give up individuality in our relationships, and as moms, right? You talk about that a lot, especially with your, your upbringing around religion, right? And the kind of messages that you got. So let's just dive in. Why don't we talk about like this whole need to save thing, and like how did that show up for you when you were in relationships? Like how did that like articulate itself in your relationships in the past?
So for me, I think first of all, us as women, because we're naturally nurturers, and we naturally have that energy, whether we choose to have children or not, we naturally have that nurturing energy to mother.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, it showed up in a way that I didn't get the teachings from my parents to learn what it looked like to have boundaries.
Yeah.
I didn't learn how to be an individual and then teach others how to treat me, how to respect me, and how to love me. That wasn't taught to me in my household. Growing up in a Spanish household, what was taught to me is that I had to be sacrificial. I had to just make things work. There's very specific roles that we are taught to follow as women.
Yeah.
And so it's about sacrificing. For me, it was about sacrificing me and giving everything to who my significant other was going to be. And then once I had children, to my children, and to just be for family. And that's what a good woman does. She leaves herself last, and she always does everything for her family. And that's how I learned to do romantic relationships.
Right.
My mom took care of a lot of things, and it was sacrificial. And, like growing up, I experienced my dad, who was a very loving man, but I experienced him cheating on my mom. And so, my mom forgave him, and they kept being in their relationship. But what was missing for me was the boundaries and that openness in conversations and in communication. Right? So I, growing up, didn't learn to have the confidence to stand up for myself and to be my own individual, and to create that level of communication that I have now, to be able to tell somebody else what my needs are and how I want to be treated in a relationship. Yeah. Right? And because of the mothering and the nurturing, I fell into that, oh, I'm the one who has to do all these things to make it work.
Yeah.
And I have to be all these things for my significant other. So in my relationship with my ex-husband, like I did all the cooking and the cleaning and the taking care of him and all of these different things that, usually moms do as kids are growing up. And what I learned from all of that is me showing up in such a codependent way in relationship not only impacted me because I didn't grow and I didn't expand, it also didn't allow for my partner at the time not to expand and grow. So it stunts both of us.
Yeah.
Right? It keeps us here.
Yeah, good point.
And what I have learned now, and the way that I show up now in relationship, is that because I've done the work to know myself, I am able to express exactly what I need, what I want, and I co-create a relationship with someone, which is very different than just falling into a relationship.
Yeah. And falling into a relationship with somebody who you have a trauma bond with, because you're both in that relationship just because it's super familiar with how you grew up, rather than it being like a conscious choice of what you want to create for yourself as well.
Yeah, I was in a relationship with my ex-husband for 20 years, and we didn't create. Everything got created as it went along, but we never came into the relationship co-creating it.
Right.
And like you said, yeah, it was a lot of trauma bonding, a lot of like what he went through in his past, what I went through in my past, and because it was relatable, we felt comfortable to share it with each other, and that's what created the bond. And so there was toxicity in our relationship throughout the 20 years.
Yeah, for sure. And, you were saying like, you like basically what happened was, you were raised in an environment where it was like monkey see, monkey do, right? Like you see your mom behaving in a certain way, your dad behaving in a certain way, your mom accepting what happened. And like you said, like there was no boundaries, there was nothing. And so there probably, I would imagine that for me, there was for sure this part of me growing up that was like, this isn't normal. This isn't right. I don't know if you thought that when you were a child. Did you ever get a sense that this was incorrect, or were you just like, oh no, this is the way it is?
No, there was part of me that said, this doesn't make sense. And I experienced both of my parents fighting with each other and yelling at each other too, right?
Right.
However, because I did see it in different households and different environments, as I kept getting older, when I was a teenager, I was like, oh, this must be the way it is.
Right. This is just normal.
This is just normal. Like, this is what it looks like.
Right.
And that's what I adopted for myself in my life, because that's what I saw all around me. I'm like, it must be normal. It must be just the way that it happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a good point. I remember like anytime so for me, I think my mom, like the relationship that I had with my mom and that kind of environment was the only one. And so I was seeing all around me healthier examples, like, you know, kids who had parents that were there for them and wanting to do things with them and teach them and care for them in a way that, you know, just wasn't being cared for. Parents who were not drunk all day long and all of that kind of stuff. So I did see a massive contrast between what was going on behind closed doors in my house versus what I saw, you know, out there with friends or cousins or stuff like that. Now that I'm a grown up, I've learned that it wasn't all roses going on behind the scenes. You know, they just hid it better, right? So that toxicity that you spoke of is everywhere. And in some cultures, in some communities, it's like every family is like that. And in others, it's like, you know, behind closed doors and we don't tell anybody what our secrets are. And, you know, like keep the smiling face for the public and, you know, don't let anybody know. And so like for both of us, like, I guess I could see that there was another way, but I wasn't being taught what that other way was. And you just simply did not see another way, but you knew internally, both of us knew internally that this is whack and there's something wrong here. But there was literally no instruction manual, literally nothing to tell us like, okay, ladies, like this is not how it is. You do not have to follow this. Here is healthy love. Here's healthy self-esteem. Here's healthy self-worth. Here's how you can love yourself. And you do not have to settle for a dude that is abusive in any way, shape, or form. You do not have to sacrifice yourself to the point of exhaustion and, you know, all the rest of it in sickness. Cause you said you got breast cancer, right? You do not have to do those things, you know, but we don't get that instruction manual. Well, that's what we're trying to do now is just like educate women that that's not normal. And here's how you undo all of that. Right. And I think that, you know, part of the reason why you and I were put in those types of situations is because we do have the capacity. It's our iteration, right? Like we have the capacity for a tremendous amount of love. We understand what love is, what the vibration of love is. And from that experience, you know, we've now been able to like shift this and change it for ourselves and then teach other women how to stop that cycle, because we really need to stop the cycle at a collective level and, you know, educate women on how to have these boundaries and how not to like continuously end up in relationships that, you know, destroy us at an emotional level or financial level. Like I went bankrupt when I was 25 because of like the dude that I was seeing at the time, you know? Yeah, it's like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot of aftermath when we're involved in these type of relationships. And what I'm going to say about the fact that there isn't a manual and why it's so important for us parents to teach our kids, right, is because we model for them everything in life. We model how they're going to show up financially, how they're going to show up in their romantic relationships, how they're going to show up as parents, right? Because the kids are watching and learning.
Yeah.
And they trust their parents. Their parents are everything to them. So like I trusted my parents, right? And the adults around me. And so what happened is that in those years, I didn't develop the sense of self-confidence and self-worth. And I didn't develop that because my parents were very strict. And in that strictness and in that loving me and in that protecting me and saving me from the world, they actually stifled my growth and my development. And I grew up believing I'm not capable of doing all of these things. And that's why my parents have to do it for me. Because I am not, so I wasn't taught to just be independent and go and do things on my own. And so that was a good breeding ground for me to then go from being in a relationship with my parents where it was more controlling and I was the submissive one, and I didn't have the space to build my own self-confidence and make my own mistakes and then get up and figure it out myself with their guidance.
Mm-hmm.
I then went into a relationship with somebody that felt safe, in the sense that it felt safe that he was going to take care of everything. He was going to be the one figuring everything out, and I was just along for the ride. And why did I do that? Because I had no self-confidence.
Yeah.
I didn't find myself to be worthy. And I thought I needed a man to save me,
Yeah.
so that I could have the life that I wanted, instead
Yeah.
of me creating it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then from that is the fear, like, that perpetuates so much fear, because it's like, you don't have that independence. You don't have that awareness or understanding or knowledge of how to be an independent woman in that, and to walk away from somebody who's being abusive, and it was different for me, but kind of the same. Like, I didn't have a mom who did everything for me. So I didn't have that level of like non-independence. Like, I was very independent, and I was picking her up off the floor every day. So there was like something to that made me feel like I was a grown-up when I was really, really little. But then so I got kicked out at 16 and immediately went into living with my first boyfriend. And in that was this environment of he was a narcissistic, and he was very abusive towards me, emotionally, financially, all of the rest of it. And it was but it was all I couldn't leave because I had zero self-worth, zero self-esteem. I had no sense of value of who I was at all, and thought that was normal. And there was that continued need to rescue this person and save this person and tolerate the less than ideal, although there was no example of what ideal was. And I think for me, part of the reason why it took me so long to leave, but then I went from that relationship to the next relationship, is because I had no idea how to be independent. So it's kind of it's almost like what you're saying, but just a different experience on how I got there. And it was I literally had no idea what it felt like to be alone. I had no coping skills. And you know what's really crazy is that, we've been friends for 2 years now.
No, longer.
Longer? Okay. You're no longer, girl.
3.
3 years? Holy moly.
Going on 3.
Nice. Yay. And so, but in the last, so I split from my ex in 2019. And from that period onwards, I've been single, living alone. And I'm like, holy moly, this is amazing. But there is a period in that, because I was serial relationships. And there was a period in that where I was I actually have no idea how to function as an adult by myself, and recognizing how that codependency was showing up in all of my relationships, that need for somebody else to tell me what to do and to save me, and all of that kind of stuff was it came screaming up at me when I had the opportunity to heal that. And I was holy shit. This is a major reason why I hung on to these relationships for so long, was because I didn't know it at the time, but I was terrified that I did not know how to cope without a man in my life.
You just said something extremely valuable, so I'm going to cut you off.
Okay, yeah, stop me.
You talked about going from one relationship to the next and not having any space to be alone.
Yeah, never.
And I think that that's something that's embedded in society and the way, the world that we're born into.
Yeah.
Because look at this, we're born into a family.
Right.
And for a period of time, our parents are always telling us what to do, how to do it, when to do it, right?
Yeah.
Then we go into school, and a school system is always telling us what to do, when to do it, and how to do it.
Yeah.
Then we go into college or university, another system. You do it like this. There's a little bit more independence there, but pretty much we are born into a structure of other people telling us what to do, how to do, when to do it. And so we are not taught as humans how to be alone, how to be with ourselves, how to be introspective and self-reflective, and how to break down the situations of what happens to us and go, oh, this happened. Is this aligned with who I am and my values? Is this aligned with the future that I'm creating for myself in my life? If it is, great. If it's not, well, what is it that I want? What do I want to learn from this? How do I want to shift from this? How do I want to do things differently? Instead, we live in a society that shames us. And shame just has us stuck. Shame is very debilitating. It creates depression, it creates addiction, it creates so many things that impact our well-being and how we show up. And it stops us from being completely authentic and completely ourselves. So I really wanted to touch on that because that's what I did too. I thought that I needed a man in my life in order for me to be happy, in order for me to be fulfilled, in order for me to have everything I wanted in life, because I thought that I couldn't get it from myself.
Yeah. That's so true. And I'm just thinking about my experience. I think for me, it wasn't so much that I was thinking I could get things from these men, because I couldn't and I wasn't. It was more that I didn't know how to function alone. Like, I don't know how to grocery shop by myself. I don't know. Like, it was literally like, I don't know how to function as an adult without somebody else in my life. So you have to come with me everywhere. You have to come with me to do this thing. Rather than this person is the source of certain things, if that makes sense. So like, I love this because like I had one experience, you had another experience, but at the end of the day, like it was still rooted in a lack of understanding what's healthy.
Yeah. That's the key word, healthy.
Healthy. Yeah.
Because we can learn how to do relationships, we can learn how to communicate, we can learn how to do all of these things in life. But the key is, how do we have healthy relationships? How do we have a healthy relationship, starting with the relationship with ourselves. And have that be healthy? What does it look like to have a healthy relationship with you? The longest and most intimate relationship you're ever going to have ever.
Right. So let's talk about that. So what does that look like? Because if you have a healthy relationship with yourself, first and foremost, and you learn how to do that, that's where confidence comes from. That's where your self-worth comes from, because you know who the fuck you are, and you just don't tolerate stuff anymore. And so these abusive, narcissistic partners and friendship, even friendships, all of that, bosses, like all of that, clients, depending, it just can't enter your sphere.
Yeah, it falls away. Like
falls away, like Teflon.
As you're speaking, I'm looking. You were speaking, I was looking, and I'm like, do I have any relationships in my life right now where any of that is showing up? And I'm like, no. And it doesn't mean that I don't relate or have conversations with anyone who's, has those tendencies.
But we're talking
the
like
way
inner
that
circle.
They show up in my life. They don't show up with that.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. Like it's pretty. It's like I said, magical. It's very magical.
Yeah.
To live on the other side of that. So for me, that's a great question. Like, how do you nurture your relationship with yourself? So for me, I thought that self-care and self-love was, going to the salon to get my hair done, getting my nails done, getting massages done, going on vacations, doing things that I enjoy and love. And that is all part of self-care. But what I learned about what self-love looks like for me was learning about myself. And the way that I learned about myself was to look at my life and look at all the decisions I've made in life, look at all the experiences I've had, look at what my life looks like right now. Because what my life looks like right now is a direct correlation to all the decisions I've made along the way. and to learn to look at everything with compassion, with acceptance, and with love.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started to do that, that's when I started doing the work to melt away and to forgive all the shame that I put on myself and all the shame that others put on me for whatever choices I have made in my life. And so doing that work, so there was a lot of tears. There was a lot of ahas and recognizing and being able to see the patterns that I was blinded to before. And in all of that, for myself, bringing in the compassion and the self-acceptance and self-forgiveness was key.
Mm-hmm.
So using those three components along the way, when I examined everything, I think one of the hardest things that I have examined about myself, that I've healed, is who I have shown up as a mom, who I have been in my trajectory as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a 21-year-old daughter and I have a 15-year-old child who was born a daughter and it's still a woman. They are still a woman and they address themselves as they, them, because they're non-binary. And so that journey, I've been able to really take apart and uncover all the ways that my mothering didn't work. And something that was powerful is learning not to make that wrong. Learning not to look at my experiences as I did something bad and I did something wrong. And, that's it. There's something wrong with me, because that's shame, right? There's something wrong with me. So therefore it's hopeless.
Yeah.
There's nothing that can be done when we believe that there's something wrong with us, because then we walk around life believing we're broken. So that was my listening of myself. That's what I thought about myself. And as I went into this journey to embrace me, what it looked like to embrace me is to be okay with everything I've done. And I've done some pretty shitty things.
Yeah.
Like some pretty shitty things that have impacted my daughters.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a way that we're still dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Right? So it looks like having that compassion and forgiveness for yourself, because what that did is it allowed me to fall in love with me, to fall in love with the good, to fall in love with the bad, and to fall in love with the really ugly, and to be able to talk about the ugly, to be able to express it, to be able to communicate it, and to be able to learn from it. So
no, sir, go ahead.
That's what self-love looks like for me, and engaging in that, deepening my relationship with myself. So what that gave me is it gave me the confidence and it gave me the power. And that is what opened me up to be authentic and to be myself. I can be myself with you. I can be myself with the audience. I can be myself with everyone. And that has given me so much peace of mind, such peace in my life, such harmony in my life, and so much love. Like my body vibrates with love, my place vibrates with love, and everyone around me vibrates with love, because the way that I am with myself is the way that I then show up with everybody else. So I'm more compassionate and more forgiving and more understanding with other people, with everybody in my life. So it's brought such deep intimacy. I can have really deep, intimate, raw conversations with both of my children. And it's created a much stronger bond. And I've shown, I now show up as a much, much more powerful mom. And I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of my mothering. So that's just one example of what it looked like for me in one area of my life, to have and build on that relationship with myself. And the tools that I use was a lot of self-reflection, a lot of asking deeper questions about me.
Yeah.
And not being afraid to answer, and not being afraid to listen to what was gonna come out.
Well, that's it, right? Like that's the point is that like we're the truth of how we show up or what we're doing or what we did, the impact of our decisions, the impact of all of that, when we see that, when we really see it, it's so painful when we see how we've allowed others to treat us or how we've treated others from that place of shame. And the shame piece it's huge. Like, you know, if we're looking at the consciousness scale, the work that Hawkins does, right? It's the lowest, you know, he's considered it the lowest vibration because it really is like it makes us hide. It makes us wrong. It makes us like, it's where that shadow element of us like lives, right? Because we're just like, if anybody finds out.
Yeah. You know what it does? It makes us believe that we deserve to be punished in romantic relationships.
Right. I'm such a bad person. So
I walked
obviously
around with so much shame. I thought I deserved to be treated the way my ex-husband treated me.
It's so painful.
Yeah, it is. It's very painful. And that is one of the big components why I never left. Because I deserve it. I deserve to be treated like this. I'm not deserving of that.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's what shame does to us.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so true. You articulated that so beautifully. So I'm not even going to attempt to like recap it because like everything that you said is spot on. What I do want to loop back to is what you said in the beginning of what you were sharing about self-care versus self-love. And, you know, that in itself is like a whole other like hour-long live stream. But, you know, to touch on it, it is like, you know, we have to start somewhere. So depending on where, like for those of you watching, hi to anybody who's here live. If you make a comment on here, we unfortunately, the way this app works, I won't be able to see your name, I don't think. But if you just put your name and make a comment or something like that, then we can say hello. But anyway, so yeah, the difference between the self-love and self-care is really important, but we need to start somewhere. And so starting with the self-care, if that's where you are, is an important place to start, right? Because a lot of women don't even take their time to like go get their hair cut, you know, get their nails done. Like, you know, especially moms, you know, with young children or whatever, right? Like, it's just like, you know, I don't have time, or they're saying that they don't have time, or they're letting other people all take that time and then putting themselves last, right? And so like that really starts, that's some deep conditioning there. That's very, very deep programming, very deep conditioning that to take care of yourself is selfish. And like that's the kind of stuff that like I know you've worked through, I've worked through. It's like that's the biggest freaking lie there is out there, one of the biggest lies there is out there. And it's actually incredibly selfish not to take care of yourself. And it's like, wait, what? It's such a like opposite to the paradigm that's taught out there, that most, you know, it takes a little while for women to wrap their head around that. And so the self-care piece is self-love, you know, go and get your manicure, go and have a bubble bath, go and do those things. It's okay. Like, it's okay. And then, but that's like level one, right? And then like what we're talking about here is getting to the meat and potatoes of what's going on. And it's the programming, it's the shame, it's the conditioning, it's the patterns, it's how you were raised, it's the inner child work, right? That's the work we do with people, is like that deeper work to help women walk through that so that they can get to that self-love, you know, because it's a very different set of activities that you do in the self-love arena versus the self-care. And the way I compare these things is like, you know, self-care is going to the gym, for example, and going on the treadmill and like getting your 20 minutes in and, you know, like doing your thing or going to a yoga class or something like that. That's self-care. Self-love is doing that and knowing like how amazing you are. Mm-hmm. Like, it's one thing to go to the yoga class and then see yourself in the mirror and be like, oh my God, I'm so fat. Oh my God, comparing yourself to all the skinny, you know, chicks in the class. And like, I can't bend that way. Oh my God, it's, you know, whatever. Like, look, I look so old or whatever it is, whatever the bullshit that's going through your head while you're looking at yourself in the mirror in the class, that's not self-love. So you're self-caring by being in yoga, but you're not self-loving. Self-loving is, I'm just remembering this, like looking at yourself in the mirror in the yoga class and being like, this is the most terrifying thing ever. I don't know why. It's so fascinating how terrifying it is to look at yourself in the mirror, right? That's why mirror work is so powerful. Looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, I am lovable.
Yes.
I am worthy.
I am enough.
Enough. I am pure love. Oh, there's a comment here.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I don't know who you are. If you could put your name, babe, that would be amazing. If you want. I grew up with a mom as a martyr to us, and I had to work so hard to overcome that in myself. I thought I had the self-love thing worked out, but not so much. I had so much to unpack. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hi, love. Hi.
Nice to meet you, Caroline. You know, that is so true that and I love that you inserted start where you are, because we're all at different levels.
Yeah.
Right. And so I remember one of the very first things for me that was like, okay, I'm taking care of myself, I'm actually doing it, was after I exited that relationship, I went through a period of time where I did counseling. And for me, it was very common to book my counseling sessions. And then if a client called me or if my kids needed something, I would just cancel them or move them, right? And most often than not, it was just being canceled.
Yeah.
So one of the very first things for me that shifted was, I'm never going to cancel my appointment. I'm not going to cancel my counseling. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. And if somebody calls and they're like, I'm going to say no. And I practiced saying no. And it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard because I didn't know how. I was so used to just doing everything for everybody else. But then it left me empty and resentful as hell. Even though I didn't say it, it showed up in my energy. It showed up in my body. Right. But that, like, I remember that being one of the first things that shifted for me. Yeah. And I was like, you know, and things would try to interrupt and I'd be like, no, I'm going. And it was like, it took something until I walked in the door, you know, and then that next thing was for me, okay, I'm going to take this much time in the morning to do things for myself. You know, I love to read. I like meditation. I like going for walks, things like that. So I said, okay, I'm going to create a structure and a schedule for myself, and nobody's going to steal this time from me because this is going to nourish me so I can start my days off in a great and amazing way. And so that was another thing, like having people interrupt me or wanting to book things at the same time. And I was like, just say no, just say no. This is my time for me. You know, it took that practice. Like I had to tell myself, I would look at myself in the mirror and be like, say no. It's for you. It's not, you know, and again, it was that thing. Oh, you're being selfish. You don't care about anybody else. You only care about yourself. But like you said, it's the most selfless thing that we can do. It's the most loving thing that we can do, because when our cup is full, and we are in our power, and we are grounded in who we are, and we feel freaking amazing about ourselves, everybody else is going to get that love. And everybody else is going to get that energy, and everybody else, and we model for our kids and for everyone around us that. And so it gives permission to others to also do the same thing and love themselves to that degree.
I love it. And, you know, the thing, I want to loop back to the shame piece here, because when we are carrying shame or guilt or anything like that, right? We are hiding a piece of ourselves. And so, like, really the way to having that level of self-love and that level of happiness and bliss and all of that you and I are now experiencing, it is, a lot of that is because we have unpacked and healed our own relationship with whatever is driving the shame. So the things that you were talking about, like with regards to, you know, what happened with your daughters, it was like, if anybody, like for me at least, you know, and correct me if this is not right for you, but it was like, if anybody finds out that I did this or behaved this way or whatever, like, they're going to see that I'm an awful, awful human being. So I'm going to push this down, make sure nobody finds out. So what that does is it makes us not be visible. It makes us not speak up. It makes us not speak our truth. Like, it puts us in some tiny little box because we've got some ridiculous shame around something. Either we were shamed by it, or we feel society would shame us, or whatever. There is some sort of embarrassment. There is some sort of shame in that, right? Absolutely. And then you can't be expressed because you're always afraid somebody's going to find out how awful a person you are. Somebody's going to find out how bad I am. And it's like, holy shitballs. If you can heal that and come to forgiveness of yourself and compassion for yourself, that, you know what, you did your best and that's all you could possibly do at the time. You've learned your lesson and you have now moved on. When you get to that place, that is a massive level of awakening, of self-love, and then being who you truly are. And that is 100% what you spoke to about the peace of mind and the peace and the happiness and all of that, because you don't give a shit what anybody thinks. And because, like, somebody could, like, literally somebody could say to me, Krisha, you're a bad mother. And I'd be like, okay, maybe. I probably made some decisions that weren't that great, you know, but I'm at peace with that. Krisha, you're an awful businesswoman. Okay, possibly, you know, like, I made some mistakes in business too, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I started this thing. But if I was carrying all that shame around and somebody said, Krisha, you're a bad mom, or Maria, you're an awful mom, or something like that, you know, it's like, you're in agreement with it. And then because you're still in shame, and then you can't, you close, and there goes everything.
So we take everything personally and to heart when we carry around shame, because a lot of the things that people may say can be made up or based on their own opinions. But we take it like the truth because there's shame.
There's already something
that
here.
we're carrying, right? So that's something that happens. The other thing that happens when we're carrying all this shame is like you were saying, we become so small. Like I was afraid to try new things. I was afraid to say what I wanted or what I liked. Why? I was afraid to make mistakes because I was afraid to fail, because for me, failing meant that I was a failure. And I can't be a failure, because that means I'm a bad human being and I am unworthy. And I, you know, like my husband is going to leave me. My kids are not going to love me. My friends are not going to want to be around me. You know, like I'm just going to lose people. Why? Because I am then unlovable, because I'm a failure and I'm bad and all of this. And so it created for me in my life this thing about I have to please everyone. I have to be what everybody else wants me to be. So I was this chameleon, you know, showing up. Like if I was going to show up in my friendship with you, Krisha, I would have found out everything that you liked and how you wanted things done so that I can mesh myself and mold myself into what you prefer, and then go do that with somebody else. It's freaking exhausting.
It's exhausting. And then you don't know who that person is. Like I wouldn't then know who you were, and then you would behave like that's a charade, right? Like that's a facade, and you can only hold that for so long. And then like let's say one day you show up with me like real and vulnerable, and I'd be like, who the hell is this chick? Like, I've never seen her before. Yeah. No way, man. Be truth, be honest, be yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, babe, listen. So I know you've got you need to go at 55 minutes past. So it's 51 minutes past now. So I wanted to just do a time check here for you so you're not late for your next call.
We can end at 2:58. I'm okay with that.
Nice. Precisely. So, all right, cool. So then, let's see, what have we covered so far? We've covered quite a bit, in terms of, the being the savior, needing to fix. Did we talk about looking for outside validation? I can't remember if we talked about that specifically or not.
I think it's weaving into everything we've said, because
I think
when we grow up believing that, that we have to be a certain way, and society and the way that we are born into all of this environment and rules, and it in itself creates this space for us to be always looking outside of ourselves for approval, because we're born into the systems. Like parenting is all based on, being controlled in an environment. Then we go into school, then we go into, a romantic relationship. So everything is structured in such a way in society where we don't have the space to completely authentically show up as ourselves. It's scary to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And so we seek validation everywhere from everyone. I'm not going to do this unless this many people say it's okay. Like, that was me. I would never make any major decision about my life until I asked a whole bunch of people. And then I wouldn't choose what I wanted. I would choose what they wanted.
Yeah. Same here.
And then I was always resentful. I was always disappointed. I was always searching for that happiness and that fulfillment and that zestiness in life, because I was never doing whatever the hell I wanted that was aligned with my soul. I was always doing what other people wanted. And so what happened is, when I ended my relationship with my ex-husband, I found myself going, I don't know who the fuck I am. And it was scary as hell. Because I didn't know where I was standing. It felt like I was standing in some wobbly thing where if I made the wrong move, it was all gonna just like, I was gonna sink into nothingness. And so it was like that. It was like, holy shit, I don't know who I am.
Right. And I'm just making notes here. And what happens in that, and this is why I'm always harping on, like, get a coach, because like, this is the most pivotal time frame for people, right? Is this sense of like, because this is where our subconscious mind takes over, right? It's like, you're recognizing that you have this pattern. You're recognizing that you want to get out of it. You're recognizing that you don't want to be this way anymore, but you don't know how not to be that way. You don't know what the patterns are yet. You just know that you've got all these results in your life that you don't want, right? And so what happens in that is, if you're not properly supported in one way, shape, or form, through therapy or coaching or whatever it is, a spiritual guru, like a shaman or something, anything, what will happen is, our subconscious is so powerful, because like, that's what was formed when we were very, very little, and we started getting that message, and then we operate life out of that subconsciousness. But we have this conscious part of us that doesn't want these things anymore, but we don't know how to bridge the gap between those two. I didn't even know about the subconscious until a few years ago, right? That this was even a thing. I had no idea that there was another way to be. And so having, like, God, I remember when I was doing this deep work, and I was letting go of who I thought I was. There was this period of the unknown. This is a lot of people when they experience a midlife crisis. There's a period of this unknown where it's like, I don't want that, but I don't know what that is. And it's terrifying and it's scary and I have no idea how to get there. But I don't want that, but that's all I know. And so you're in this kind of like purgatory state where you have no idea who you are and how to, and so the danger in that, if you don't have the right kind of support, is that you're just going to constantly flip back to the old patterns and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat over and over and over again. And continue and then what happens is you get a little bit of relief. You think that you've overcome something, right? And you're like, phew, dodged that bullet, but you didn't. All you did is you dodged your own subconscious. You didn't actually heal from it and move on from that pattern and create something new for yourself because you don't know how.
Yeah, because you didn't unlearn the programming that you have right now and relearn a new programming.
Something new. Exactly.
So that's the shift, is noticing your patterns and going, oh crap, look at all the stuff. How do I then remove that here? And what do I replace it with? That's healthy, that's good, that's aligned with what I want and the life I'm creating.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, we've got 1 minute left.
My God. You and I can talk for days, I think, continuously, and the conversation would just keep going.
Okay, listen. How do people find you?
Okay, so you can find me. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. My Instagram account is Stan Coaching. On Facebook, you can find me under Stan Coaching or under Maria Diaz. Yeah. And you can find me through Krisha.
And you can, and through here as well. Yeah. So if anybody watching this is resonating with you and they want to work with you, then they can just find you on those platforms and reach out and see what that relationship could look like. You're an amazing coach. I love you so much. And thank you for being here and sharing all of this.
I feel the same way about you. You're an extraordinary coach. You are the most incredible friend. And I absolutely love you. And I love having these conversations. These conversations have become what I have all the time.
Yeah.
And it's so fulfilling and it's so nourishing. So thank you for giving me that opportunity and for having me here on your platform and sharing with everyone. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you for being here and for sharing all of your wisdom. I love you so much. We're just like, I love you. No, I love you. No, I love you more. No, I love you more.
I know. That's usually how we end our calls.
It's like, no, you hang up first. No, you hang up first. All right. You can hop off if you want. I'm pretty sure the live will stay if you need to actually go, and I'll just wrap up here. So thank you so much. I love you, darling. I'll talk to you soon.
Love you.
Okay, bye. All right, let's see. Do I stay on here if Maria goes? I've never used this app before. Okay, yay, I do. Yay. All right, thank you so much. Those of you who were on here live, Carolyn, thank you for being here and for your comments. And anybody watching the replay, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you hearing what my beautiful friend Maria has to say about this particular topic. Thank you very much for being in this group, for being part of this community. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to write it in the comments. I think you will have to put your name in there in order for me to see it, which kind of sucks about the software, or you can send me a DM. You can send me a personal message if there's anything that you want to explore a little bit deeper. All right, that's it for me for today. This was Worthiness Wednesday. And a live stream here with my very good friend Maria Diaz, talking all about love and self-worth and self-trust, and really stepping into the most aligned, powerful, confident, love-oriented person that you already are, and moving aside all of that stuff that's not true so that you can truly, truly, truly be this shining light of amazingness that you are on this planet in this lifetime. Thank you so much. I will see you when I see you next. Bye.